I'm here to tell you guys a story about the monkeys and bananas. And it goes like this. A long time ago, scientists placed 5 monkeys in a cage with a large bunch of bananas in the middle. And like any reasonable monkey would, they go for the bananas. But, to their surprise, scientists sprayed all the monkeys with cold, frigid water. So they repeated this process until the monkeys learned to not go for the bananas for fear of the chilling water. Well, that's not fun, so they mixed it up a little bit. They replaced an original monkey with a new monkey. Now, this new monkey, having no reason to resist the bananas, goes to swipe for a tasty treat. But, to his dismay, he is pummeled into submission by all the other monkeys, because they know what is coming, the cold water. So, he doesn't know why he can't go for the bananas, and repeats the process with the same results. Eventually, he painfully learns to resist going for the bananas without ever really knowing why. So scientists repeat this process of replacing an original monkey with a newcomer with the same results. He's beat down before he can reach the bananas. And even this time now, the original newcomer joins in the monkey assault with enthusiasm because he is simply following the crowd. Now, why would these monkeys act in a way that makes no sense to newcomers? Well, if capable of speaking, one of these monkeys might say, well, I don't know. That's just the way it's always been done. That's just the way it's always been done. Now, I think we as a society relate perfectly to these monkeys. What if it's for us that these bananas represent a healthy, clean, fair, vibrant world that we all want to live in, yet we are simply beating ourselves up over nothing because we've become so accustomed to the way things have always been done that we fail to really reach for what we want. This has led to many unsustainable habits, that we as consumers, investors, and the corporations that we work for are responsible for. We know businesses can do great things, but we also know they can be very destructive or do things that simply don't make sense. An example of this is the amount of food waste that we generate in this country. We send roughly 40% of our food to a landfill without it ever hitting the table. Corporations cause many environmental issues, whether that impact the rivers, the lakes, our oceans, our drinking water. And these aren't just issues that we hear or see on the news, they're impacting us daily and even happening in our own backyard. An example of this is the Kalamazoo River oil spill that happened not too long ago. But I think most pervasive is many of the issues that we can't even physically see, whether it's through the air we breathe, the food that we eat, or the products that we are exposed to on a daily basis. We as consumers have a vested interest into the chemicals that are going in and out of these products. As investors, we should understand how these are impacting the companies that we're investing in. So I think traditionally as investors, we've almost grown to accept these issues as side effects of generating wealth. Well, that no longer has to be the case. This has spurred a movement of what is known as corporate sustainability, and it is definitely part of the solution. Corporations are now reinventing the way business has always been done and looking at, these key issues. Corporations are now cutting out hazardous chemicals out of our products. Companies like Panera Bread are addressing hunger issues, and they actually have an initiative that at the end of the day, all of their unsold baked goods are then donated to local food banks to help feed hungry people. Companies are being conscious of the amount of waste they're sending to a landfill every single year. So this has spurred corporations to be responsible citizens. When you think of corporate sustainability, it's about a corporation viewing itself as part of a larger system. And their goal is to understand their environmental, social, and economic impacts on that system. And they seek solutions and improvements to those impacts. So they do this by focusing on the triple bottom line, which I'm sure many of you have heard of, and what's known as people, planet, and profit. And their goal is to not only just build financial equity, but environmental and social equity as well. So now investors are starting to recognize the materiality of this information for investment decision making. They're looking at what is known as ESG data, or environmental, social, and corporate governance info. And so they're looking at how this ESG data can impact the financial well-being of the companies that they're investing in. So they're looking at the environment. What are the emissions? What is the energy usage? How much water are they using? What is the waste? What are the chemicals that are going into the environment that could ultimately harm consumers? How are they impacting their communities? What are their health and safety policies for employees? When you think of corporate governance, it's how a corporation interacts with its key internal and external stakeholders. So how transparent are they with employees? How transparent are they with customers, suppliers, and ultimately you as shareholders? So many of these companies will issue annual sustainability reports alongside financial reports. They're viewed as much more transparent with stakeholders, and they're longer-term oriented, very forward-thinking. And some of them are some of the best places and most admired companies to work for. And I don't think it's a coincidence that many of these companies and employees there are generally much happier, and they're therefore more productive, and ultimately these companies are generally more profitable. But so all these initiatives are great, but still many investors have some misconceptions about sustainability. You'll hear people say that sustainability is, it's risky, it's expensive, and therefore doesn't add value to shareholders. They think it's something that's politically driven. And then ultimately that these companies will underperform the market. Well, I'm here to tell you that all of these conflict with reality. So what is really driving sustainability for many of these companies? In 2011, Ernst & Young conducted a survey where they asked over 272 respondents in over 24 different industry sectors the simple question: what is driving sustainability for your company? And what they found was pretty surprising. So when we look here, 93% of respondents cited energy costs as a key driver. Next, we see changes in customer demand, brand risk, increased stakeholder expectations, competitive threats, and new revenue opportunities. What all this top information or drivers are saying is that these are economic in nature and are very market-driven, not politically driven like many might think. So, what does this mean to all of you as an investor? It's important to understand that sustainability information does provide value to you. It can be a strategic differentiator for a company and help them build strong brand recognition, which offers them a competitive advantage. And these companies are much more transparent, so they're viewed as less risky. These companies are much longer-term focused, and I like to say that they don't sacrifice their long-term value for small, short-term gains. They're ahead of much of the costly legislation and regulation, and as I mentioned earlier, the employees of these companies are much happier, and therefore the company has a lot less turnover. And I think this is an important point, is that the investment industry has been so inundated with distrust from corruption, misdeed, that I think a lot of this ESG information is necessary to show investors that these companies are serious about addressing many of these issues. So another thing that I think is important to know that is coming is that our universities today are now educating our students more and more on sustainability. They're pushing their own sustainability within their own operations. And the Sierra Club now ranks the top schools in the nation based on their sustainability initiatives. And I'd like to highlight that my alma mater, Grand Valley, was ranked 16th in the nation last year on their sustainability initiatives. But the point here now is that all of these students coming out of our universities have been impacted by sustainability in some form. They are now hardwired with this mindset, and they're going to be the ones driving our economy in the future. It is my belief that these companies leading in this information are going to attract and retain the best talent. So, what does a sustainability success story look like? Well, many people might not think of Walt Disney as a sustainable company. But back in 2009, they launched their long-term sustainability goals. And one of those goals was to eventually be zero waste to landfill. Now, if you think about that, that's a major corporation. All of those amusement parks, all those visitors, guests, all that trash, all that garbage, they're hoping to divert away from a landfill. The company is hoping to have zero net direct greenhouse gas emissions. And they have already diverted their supply chain away from high-risk countries, labor countries. They've already reduced their electricity usage by over 10% from 2006, further adding to the cost benefits. But what's most impressive is while taking on these initiatives, the company has had record net income in 2012. They've been increasing their dividend consistently, and over a 5-year period, they have outpaced the S&P 12-fold. That's huge. So I think as more companies start to realize that you can do well by doing good, they will start to follow suit. And as investors start to recognize the benefits, then we can drive the market towards sustainability. So if you're an investor in these type of companies, there's an index that tracks companies leading in sustainability. And if at the beginning of the year you invested in them, now you would be beating the market right now by about 4%. The long-term benefits are exponential. So why invest sustainably? Besides the simple fact that we don't all have millions of dollars to donate to charity, it's important to realize that sustainability information is material to investing and that you can drive change, I believe, much more efficiently than the government can. And it's important to understand what your portfolio is supporting. If you live your life a certain way, why not invest that way and evaluate your own triple bottom line? And my message for you is that I want you all to reach for those bananas, because what you'll find now is that the cold water has been turned off. It has been switched to a soothing, warm shower that is looking to reward those for actually pursuing sustainability. And it is my belief that our communities, our environment, and our future generations will be much stronger because of it. Thank you.